Hello everyone, my name is Nature Angel, and if you are new, welcome, and if you are joining, welcome back. Today's video I think is going to be very good and interesting for people that are either going to be school psychologists or even people who are already school psychologists. So this video today, if you already saw the title, you already know it is about IQ tests and why that doesn't define a child. And also, when you're looking at an IQ test, like, what does it mean when you say that a student or person is average, right? So we're gonna get into all of that today. And if that sounds interesting to you, definitely keep watching. So we're just gonna get right into it. So many people think that if you are doing or taking someone's IQ, you're going to measure how smart that person is, right? Wrong. No. IQ really measures how you're thinking in specific situations, right? So if that may seem a little confusing, let's try something really quick. Do you know the answer to any of these questions? So, do you know why coal stoves are used in winter? Do you know what a telegraph does or what a thimble is? You might, right? But most people nowadays would not know what that is because it just simply isn't relevant to our everyday life, while it may have been however many years ago, right? But just because you don't know the answer to that does not mean that you are not intelligent. The thing that happened is our culture changed and what is considered common knowledge also changed, right? So those questions were questions that were on intelligence tests before. So if you got all of those wrong, I'm assuming you would probably get most of them wrong, but would that mean that you're not smart? No, of course not, because this is just not relevant to you. I do have to admit, for the assessments that we do nowadays, for the IQ assessments, they are a little less trivia based and more focused on things like processing speed and problem solving, but there are still things in there that are cultural based or based on you having had a specific type of education that may not be relevant everywhere else in the world, let alone language heavy. So there's things like that that can also affect your score and what your IQ will be, just like how if we are looking at IQ questions from the past, we might not know. So keep that in mind as well. Here are some examples that I'm thinking of that could affect your IQ. So let's say that you had breaks in your education, right? Let's say that you switched schools. That could definitely mess up how your IQ score will turn out. Or if you were homeschooled and then you went to public school, then you went to private school and you were just kind of all over the place, right? Also, just being exposed to certain vocabulary, like, are you in a position for that? Did your parents read to you every night versus they were busy working and they didn't have time to read, so you weren't exposed to as much vocabulary as the person sitting next to you whose parents read them like books every single night? You also have to consider, like, what type of neighborhood are they growing up in, and is there trauma involved? What sort of household? Is it a 1 or 2 parent household? And what is the dynamic in that 1 or 2 parent household? Like, is the child taking care of their younger siblings while one parent is working day and night versus another kid who maybe their parents are super rich and have a bunch of resources, and then they are able to do whatever they have to do in school, and then they have things outside of school where they can get even more practice on top of their parents helping them as well. You're gonna have 2 very different scenarios there that are influencing how they learn and what they learn and what is important to them in their life. And that's gonna affect their IQ, right? So you would have to keep that in mind. But again, like I've been saying, this does not mean that they are not smart or that they are not intelligent or that they can't do a certain thing just because of these factors, which is why you have to consider these things when you are looking at a student's IQ. And I mean that in the sense of, let's say that you get a student's IQ and it's in the low range, right? But this is the student that has 4 siblings and they know how to cook and clean and take care of a house because that's what they're doing. Are you going to say they're not intelligent? Of course not. But if that causes them to miss school and then they are not learning things such as vocabulary and math facts and they're missing all that instruction, well then of course they are going to score lower on these standardized tests that we have and on things like the IQ and achievement testing because they just are not exposed to that. But that does not mean that they don't have the ability. That does not mean that they are not intelligent. It is just not the primary focus of what that student is doing day in and day out. Also, we have to keep in mind that performance is going to vary depending on the context. Like, did you test a kid in the morning versus the evening, or I should say the afternoon? Because what if they take meds in the morning and that helped them to focus, but it wears off in the afternoon? Well, then they might have performed better if you did it in the morning versus in the afternoon, right? Also, did they get sleep? Because I know when I don't get sleep, my mind is not functioning 100%. So just imagine a small child or middle schooler, high schooler, their brain's not functioning 100%, they're not going to perform their best. So you're probably wondering,
why do we even need them? Why do we even need these IQ tests if they're so bad?
Well, they can be helpful. They can be helpful for the things that we are looking for in school and for the things that we can provide. So for example, if we take a student and we give them the IQ test, maybe based on their scores, they might need certain accommodations and interventions. And based on their scores, we know what areas we can address and what sort of accommodations we can help and give them so that they can succeed in school. We also get an idea of areas where they are really strong in and areas where they might need a little more help in. So it's like, this is a strength for them, this might be a weakness, but it gives us a clearer picture of what that can be. I'm not saying what that means, I'm just saying it gives us more information. Because with any student, we want to take as much information in as possible. We are not basing everything on IQ and achievement tests. We also want to know what's happening in home, in the classroom, just a variety. And we want to collect as much information as we can. And this is a part of the information we collect and combined with everything else. Let's say that we get those scores back, right? And it said that the student is average. There are so many people and parents where when you call their kid average, they take it as an insult. They're like, my kid isn't normal, my kid isn't just average. But what does that mean? It's not a bad thing. Being average is not bad at all. If a student is scoring average, we are saying they are performing where we would expect most people to perform, right? There are extreme ends on the low and the high, but we expect most people to be in the middle. And we are saying that when your kid is average, they are in here. And that's good. That's a good thing. That's fine. Most people are going to fall in the middle of here. And that's what I meant by the two extreme ends. And I feel like when you have the visual, it can help parents to understand better, like, oh, okay, so my kid is going to be in here if you say average. It's not a bad thing. You're just saying this is what they scored, this is what we would expect, and they fell in that range. The thing I think that people need to remember though is that regardless of score, a student still may exceed or fall behind in certain areas, even if it is average. The thing is, it's important to remember that's not the end all be all. Like if they struggle in a certain area and then they're better in another, like we all have our own strengths and weaknesses, right? And even if we're really good at one area, well, that can change in the opposite. I've seen students where they might be like low in verbal comprehension, but they're getting A's in their English class. So they're still thriving. And if needed, this can help us give, like I had mentioned earlier, the correct accommodations and interventions that we can use to help them succeed and do even better. It's just giving us an idea of what we can use to help them, what tools they may need to help them do even better in the school setting. And just like with the average, if we say a student is below average, that also isn't bad, especially if we have the right things in place to help them to do even better if they need it. They might not. They might have just had a day where they were tired and then their scores were below average, but they're actually performing just perfectly fine in the school setting. I've also seen that. Kids where all their scores are low and they're performing just fine all their classes, passing, they're doing well, and will continue to do well in high school and above and beyond. So I think that's important to keep that in mind, especially for the parents, not to freak out based on the score and not to let the score define your child. So that is it for the video today. I hope that you guys enjoyed. I felt like this is really helpful and kind of quick and to the point of what IQ testing does, what it means, what it represents, and when we say average, what that means. I can go into more detail about any of the parts of this video if that interests you. Just leave that down below, and definitely leave any other suggestions for me down below as well, so that I will have an idea for the next video. So I hope that you enjoyed. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, okay? I'll see you next time. All right, bye guys.